Guys, the Goblin is coming. What do you mean?
Hello. I love that. I really enjoy that opening. I think it's great. I think the fact that I just happened to catch that at the right time in the right place, I'm super happy about. This has been a fun day. For anybody who's not been on Twitter, I may or may not have been blowing it up a little bit, and I'm having a grand old time. I don't know about you guys, but there are some people that are losing their damn minds, and it's and it's just gonna get better tomorrow. So I definitely recommend you like, subscribe, hit the bell, look out for tomorrow. Tomorrow is gonna be a shit show. Big exposed video, gonna be bonkers. Don't forget to go to my PayPal.
Got a psychological problem with women.
It's gonna be a good one. But in the meantime, let's talk about something a little bit more intelligent based. And, you know, considering what this is about, that's saying a lot. Set the bar, man. The bar. By the way, speaking of Goblin soap, I do have some product coming out for you guys in the near future. I can, I don't know if I can pull it up for you guys. Is this a sneak preview? You guys want a sneak preview? I don't know if I can get it. Hold up. Where did I send that where it'd be easy to get without crashing my stream? I'll get you guys some flavor. Hold up. I am good to you guys, and I just want you to be aware of that. So while I'm pulling that up, if you want to take a look real, Philip here has some opinions, and there's some opinions that I think are decent, one might say. You might say I like his opinions, probably because it seems like we've had some similar experiences when dealing with particularly the Twitter atheist community, which is, I must say, I've seen worse. I've seen more toxic fandoms. I mean, we've been dealing with one for about, I don't know, 4 years? Don't mind if you see my Twitter notifications exploding. That's just some background stuff going on. But let's just read it out. And I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but from my Twitter experience at least, theists seem to have a greater understanding of logic than atheists, which is a shame. I am aware that my sample is low and probably not indicative of the population at large. I think people who have a greater understanding of logic tend not to use Twitter. Just saying. Maybe that's common sense. Maybe I'm mixing together common sense and maybe. And yes, that is absolutely an admission. I use Twitter as a specific tool to do specific things. Here you go. Ah! I'm gonna put on a shirt and it's gonna say soap. Yeah, I agree. Leon says, this thread was a train wreck over and over again. I did see that one of the people on this Twitter thread legitimately just, their account doesn't exist anymore. It's just gone. So, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So, I hope you guys like the soap. So, this was in response to somebody saying, who goes by atheist bad, something something. I'd like to impose logic on theists. It seems they have so little and are in dire need of it. I also believe it will benefit them and others. It's also a little payback for all their goddamn imposing. So it's like two wrongs make a right kind of thing. And I mean, I can kind of understand giving somebody sort of a taste of their own medicine, but just from reading this tweet alone, I get the indication, it seems to me, that the thing this person is advocating for isn't actually logic that they're trying to push. It's poking holes in whatever ideology that the person that they're talking to or about is talking about. So like with Christianity, it's like, oh well, what about the problem of evil? And it's like, do you understand what the problem of evil actually is? It's not a terribly difficult concept to grasp, but there's a difference between like presenting logic in a philosophical sense and presenting some kind of argumentation or just poking holes. Like if you go into a debate and you only poke holes in the other person's argument, you are at flat earth level of debate. That you're at flat earth level of discussion. There is something to be said about that kind. Like it is a tactic. It's an okay tactic to use, but if that's all you bring to the table, color me not very impressed. So let's Yes, Smitty makes a good point. You use Twitter to shitpost and see other shitposts. Same as everyone. Yeah, pretty much. So let's look through this a little bit and see what, oh, that's just me. I don't matter. There's BM Furball. Hi, Furball. Good to see you. Oh, and Sheris. It's good to see you, too. We have to go down a little bit because it got an initial bit of blowback, and then after the dust had settled, it's chilled out a little bit. Given the arguments I've seen from theists here, I have to wonder what you're talking about. Apologists can't seem to make an argument without fallacies. This is the difference of this is exactly kind of what I was talking about. When this person said logic, I don't think they meant what they thought they meant. Fallacies, although fallacies are logical fallacies, they're fallacious argumentation, there is again a difference between logic and common sense and consistency. I think what the person is referring to is they're not logically consistent. Not just they're not logical. So, because when it comes to logical consistencies, that's a bit more of a common conversation that I see that happens on Twitter. That's where you're going to find fallacies. That's where you're going to find the kind of argumentation that these people are referring to. So we're already kind of off to a start where people they're not understanding what Philip is saying. Philip is talking about, like, let's look at Philip's account real quick, because like this dude, if I am not mistaken, does philosophy enthusiast. So he's talking about philosophy. It's reasonable for us to assume he's talking about the philosophy of the matter, not talking about he's talking about more like the argumentation, not random conversations on Twitter, because you can have those random conversations on Twitter and you're trying to convince, or you're trying to berate somebody, or you're trying to, give them a taste of their own medicine, but you're not using logic the same way that this person is talking about. And yeah, no, atheists are just as bad. If you don't acknowledge that atheists can be just as bad, you're gonna be in some hot water, because you're going to start justifying people that, like, justifying behaviors or allowing argumentation that is just not good. It might just be the theists you're interacting with have a better understanding on logic than the atheist you're interacting with. Yeah, absolutely. That is 100% possible. The trouble with the quality over quantity argument. Because I swear the whole deaths of Christian Twitter don't have a freaking clue. I think they meant depths, but I'm not sure. It may be the case that we both want to follow the best from the opposing side, and that is why the impression shift exists. That's actually a really good point. It is very much possible that depending on who you follow is going to cater your whatever post you're seeing. That's the way Twitter functions. There is an algorithm behind it. So it's definitely interesting to kind of examine that, as well as to examine like who is prominent in the field, right? So by field, I don't mean the scientific field or like the field of philosophy. What I mean is the field of who sort of is leading the movements or groups, or who are these people watching? Where are they getting these fallacious arguments from? Are they parroting, or are they coming up with them on their own? Do they actually understand it? And so by saying that I don't think atheists understand a lot of their argumentation, just as much so as theists, if not more, then where you kind of need to look is who is leading, where are this fallacious argumentation coming from? Where are these fallacies coming from? So you see things like the WASP argument from Steve, and you see the McCrae-Knoll Venn diagram. And so there's an argumentation to be had there, but if you look at the atheists that are trying to quote unquote argue against this, it's very fallacious. But these are the people who are following sort of new atheism plus TM. So it's like you're a couple degrees removed from the Hitchens and the Hitchens of the world from when things were in that direction, which was kind of more of a debate about anti-theism rather than a debate about theism, because they were arguing against the sort of the overarching organization rather than whether or not a God actually exists. If you've listened to like old Harris debates and stuff like that. It's also that you notice that a lot of it's kind of a trope that atheists will call out like the Kalam argument and say that it's fallacious when it's, or like, oh, that's not logical. It is. You just don't have to accept, the way you argue that one is essentially just don't accept the first premise. I don't accept the first premise, and so the other premises will not follow. If you'd like to see a little bit more of a breakdown of Dapper, didn't we have this conversation a while ago? Yeah, we did. If you guys want to see a very good breakdown of sort of William Lane Craig's version of that argument, I definitely recommend that you go check out Scott Clifton under Theoretical Bullshit. He is fantastic. We had him on not too long ago over on Steve's channel, and I definitely recommend going and checking that out. But if you've got people who are leading these groups, if you've got people who are sort of like quote-unquote leaders or have like a following in the atheist community, and they're espousing fallacious argumentation, that fallacious argumentation is going to permeate to the rest of the people. Again, this is back to the quality over quantity argument. So if you've got, I would recommend examining who is leading this argumentation. So if you've got something coming from Matt Dillahunty versus you got something from like off the top of my head, who do we have? Dr. Randall? Somebody who's got a doctorate? And so if the theists are following somebody who's got a doctorate and the atheists are following a guy who's got a talk show, it's not going to tell you everything. It's not, that alone isn't going to mean that their argumentation is good or bad. It's just might be indicative of part of the problem, whereas where are the atheist philosophers speaking up, or why are we not deferring to them about that argumentation? So is there an atheist philosopher that can sort of maybe dissect some or improve upon argumentation that is being made by these talk show hosts? Something along those lines. It could also be that we want the best from our side, and we feel more pain when it's from one of our tribe, demonstrating weak logic when it doesn't matter as much with them. This is very likely a contributor as well. That's Answers and Reason. We love Answers and Reason, and I hope they're going to be back soon. Him and Trolley Dave. They're amazing, and I love them. Definitely go check out their blog. But yeah, no, it sometimes if somebody is arguing the same position that you are and their argumentation is bad, it just hurts your brain more. It's just more painful. It's just that much more of like a thorn in your side of like, oh God, no, you're embarrassing me, stop. And I mean, what are you gonna do, right? Like, I don't really have a problem with people having fallacious argumentation. My issue tends to be more with how do you behave when you are presented with the fact that your argumentation is fallacious, assuming that it is. So if somebody says something like, I don't know, rocks are atheist, which is absurd, and then people come forward and say, hey, listen, that's absurd, and here's why it's absurd, let me spell this out for you, and then you throw a tantrum, you don't make anybody look good. It doesn't help anybody. And so, does that mean you have to buy it? No, but throwing a tantrum just is not gonna solve anything. Nothing. Quote, they who assert that a blind fatality produced the various effects we hold in this world walk very absurdly, for can anything be more unreasonable than to pretend that a blind fatality could be productive of intelligent beings? Chapter 1. Dude, this guy's just sending a book. Bruh. Beautiful world. Can we get like a end quote? No, this guy's just quoting books. I like his Doge face though. I don't know what this person's point was, but you know, whatever. This guy, account that no longer exists. Feels bad. I actually pulled up I've got a couple pulled up here because there's like a bunch got pulled out and it kind of branched off. So I'm gonna try and follow it as well as pick apart some of the other ones I found while I was kind of digging around. How does one measure grasp of logic anyway? And did Muller choose a reliable methodology to guard against observer bias and error? For instance, the LSAT has a section on logical reasoning. Back in the day, I scored the 99th percentile. Better have a better yardstick? ? In other words, Philip, your subjective seems to observations could well be the product of personal bias rather than anything for anybody else to view as reliable. Self-delusion seems at least an equally plausible hypothesis as seems to. I don't think self-delusion is really a great direction to go with this person's point, but I think this person is essentially saying that, hey, listen, you have an observation, but if you're not doing full testing and have a litmus test for the people's grasp of logic, your observation doesn't count. And so that's kind of fallacious, don't you think? Maybe a little bit. But there are ways you can measure somebody's grasp on logic. It's not as complicated as... It's more difficult with things like common sense. It's more difficult with things like social aptitudes. A grasp of, the way Twitter works might be more difficult to measure somebody's, outside of like knowledge of like functionality. Logic has a functionality to it. You can go to university and they have to test you to know if you pass. Whether or not you agree with those testing methods is something to be discussed, but when somebody opens up a conversation and then somebody responds by giving their own observations and your response is, but your observation doesn't count, absurd. Absolutely absurd. It's opening up the dialogue for people to be able to discuss and say, hey, does anybody have the same kind of observations? Hey, can I check with you? Hey, can I check with you? Hey, can I check with you? That way you don't have to rely solely on personal observation and personal experience. You can reach out to others and see, hey, have you had this experience also? Now, you do need to be careful of things like an echo chamber. And that's fine, that there is a need to be wary of things like that. But as long as you're being careful and you understand how an echo chamber kind of comes to be, it's really not that hard to avoid. It's really not. People get super oh god, no, I don't want an echo chamber, I can't block anybody, or oh god, I can't have an echo chamber, I have to talk to everyone all the time as if every single interaction exists in a bubble. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not wanting to bother listening to somebody is not an echo chamber in and of itself. Kicking somebody off your platform, not cancel culture. You're not saying that person can't have their opinion or say whatever they want to say. Sorry, that's just not how it works. They're still more than welcome to do so. They're just not allowed to do it around you. And that's up to you. That's your boundaries. I actually had a stream over on Claire's channel that I definitely recommend checking out, It was the latest one over there. We were talking about boundaries and how to kind of interact and different social situations and how you can kind of maneuver those situations. I think we're going to do a follow-up, which I'm really excited about. I definitely recommend going to check that out. Philip's response was, listen, if you spent any amount of time reading through this thread, you will get the answers to both of your questions. How do I correct for bias or a sampling error? ? I don't, which is why I made it clear that I don't think this to be a reliable induction at all. In fact, I think at large, the opposite of what I stated is likely true because there are a ton of religious people who never think about justifying anything. And there's a decent chance that a lot of those people aren't interacting on Twitter or engaging in the conversation because they don't want to. And they don't have to. It's like, how would you get a reasonable sample size if you were going to propose and run this as an experiment? And obviously that's not what Philip is doing. This is just straight up fallacious argumentation because it's completely misrepresenting what is actually going on and what Philip had actually said. And so you see these kinds of things all of the time, and it's kind of making Philip's point for him. It's like when you come in with something this absurd, it kind of makes the point for you, don't you think? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know nothing. I'm a goblin. How does one measure? I even made a hypothesis about how sampling is likely flawed. Yeah. How does one measure? As I stated, let's suppose you make a test that includes questions on logic, like what is modus ponens? Yeah. When is a conditional true? What is the law of excluded middle? Yeah. No. You're after De Morgan's rule, etc. Yes, you can test people on how much they have an understanding of different kinds of logic in philosophy. You can test somebody on their knowledge of philosophy. Now, there is a little bit different if you're going to try and test somebody on their application. So can they apply? Can somebody? There's a difference between getting somebody to memorize and ramble off or rattle off the logical fallacies, or like a handful of them, like maybe the pop ones. We did videos on logical fallacies. Also, if you're interested, you can go and check them out. Those will be on Steve's channel in Caffeine Corner. You could have somebody ramble them off, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean they are good at applying them or capable of applying them. So that's a whole nother level of testing, right? So it depends on to what degree are you looking and what kind of logic are you talking about? Are you talking about are you actually talking about classical logic? Because like I said, I do not think the person that Philip retweeted was talking about philosophical logic. I think logic was just enough. He was using logic as a shorthand. But hey, I could be wrong. It's just the way I interpreted it. From my experience, theists on Twitter that I have encountered show a greater understanding of these concepts. That's it. That is what I take to mean have a greater understanding of logic, as in a greater understanding of the concepts of logic. Yet keep in mind here that Philip is not trying to prove anything to anyone. He's not stating this is a fact. He's not saying these people are better at this thing than these people. You would have to actually set up some kind of actual legitimate testing that you could replicate. So the first thing that comes off the top of my head is maybe surveys, but even surveys wouldn't be that good. You'd have to have your best bet would be to have people sign in, sign up for it, and then monitor their Twitter. Obviously they would have to agree to it and monitor their Twitter activity, and then use that to test them ahead of time, then monitor their Twitter activity, then maybe give them some education, and then monitor their Twitter activity. And that there are ways, but that would be a study that would cost money and not just Philip's opinion in his own experience. You can't just negate people's lived experiences. You don't just get to do that. If somebody says, hey, I experienced this thing, you don't get to say that, well, that doesn't count or matter. Of course it does. Now, is there analysis of that thing they experienced correct or not? You could have discussions about that. You could ask them questions about their lived experience, and then based off of that experience come to your own conclusions or your own understanding of a situation. But that doesn't negate whatever they've been through. That somebody could be lying about their lived experience, but you would actually have to take the time to suss out whether that's the case or not. I don't see any of that fucking happening. Yeah. I want to interact with those theists instead of the ones I usually engage with seriously. That sounds exactly like what they were saying above with depends on who you follow. I see the opposite, that more atheists can use logic than theists. Could be. I'm happy that that's your experience. I'm glad you're having a better experience than some of us. Okay, maybe your sample is really low. Try and talk with some theists and come back and tell us about them logicking it out. See, this is the opposite. This is the opposite. This is pointing the finger, well, oh, those theists over there are bad. And we're not going to prove that we're good. I'm not going to show that. I'm not going to present you with good atheist argumentation. I'm going to go and point over at the theists and say that, yeah, but they're worse. Go look at them and see how bad they are. You've got it backwards, bro. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but you're approaching this from a really negative way of doing it, and a weak way of doing it. A stronger argument would be, let me give you a list of atheists who have good argumentation and engage in this topic on with a higher understanding or a higher level than whatever it is that maybe you're experiencing. That would be such a stronger position to take. Why don't you take that position? Because the fact that you don't take that position makes me think that Philip's probably, you're making the point for him. This doesn't help you the way you think it does. Oh no. Oh no. I don't know what this is about, but okay, this isn't really... Atheist Angel says that you're dumb for having an experience. What? What? This provides... I like that Philip just gave him a thumbs up, because that's the only way to respond to something like this. Way to contribute and not make the point and look like you're part of the problem. What he said wasn't incoherent. Your GIF doesn't work. Your GIF is bad and you should feel bad, and I really like that GIF, so I don't appreciate that you're dragging it through the mud. There have been over 5,000 plus gods down the centuries. Not one theist has ever been able to prove their god exists. To follow an imaginary entity without any foundation for it being real seems illogical and not logical at all. Correct, no one ever proved that God exists. Again, we're back to the difference between being able to prove to somebody else and self-justification. So, if somebody has a lived experience, if somebody has an experience and they've interpreted that experience to be divine, then that might be good enough to convince them. That might be enough justification to convince them. And they're never going to be able to share that with people in a way that is going to logically convince somebody else. It's just, in my schema. There might be other people might have schema where that's fine. You know what, I believe you, and that's good enough for me. Sure, fine, but that's not illogical, it's just not good enough for you. What you're asking for is something that you don't accept. So, their evidence isn't... It might not be considered very good evidence because it's only personal experience. So you might not consider that good enough evidence or good evidence at all, but it is evidence. It's just not convincing to you because you didn't experience it. Now, I do think it's annoying as hell when theists present their personal experience as if it should be convincing to other people, because it ought not to be. It should not convince other people because it's a personal experience. You can't share that experience in the same way. But it's not necessarily logical. In some cases, in a lot of sort of more casual so less debate, more casual conversation, you may be talking to somebody and they say, well, I had this personal experience, da 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 da. And you'll go, okay, but is there anything else? And then they'll say something that is illogical, right? Well, God is all powerful and all knowing and almighty and whatever, and that is logically inconsistent. They might present to you a God that is logically inconsistent. Does that mean that their belief is illogical? Well, maybe not all of it. Maybe just this one argument is illogical, but that doesn't really matter. So, correct, no one ever proved that God exists. Sure. It can be said that God or gods were human first guess at the universe, yet with the invention of the microscope and the telescope, miracles are rather non-existent now. I mean, the microscope and telescope, sure. Cameras seem to be the thing that kind of messed with that. But, you know, there's the philosophy and the sciences. It's bizarre that these people are calling on philosophy but not understanding philosophy. It's strange to me. They were always non-existent. They were misinterpretations of the natural state of existence or outright lies. Maybe. Can you prove that? That's a couple claims. Can you prove that somebody's experience that they personally had on their own wasn't real or was imaginary or is a lie? In some cases, maybe. In some cases, you can catch somebody lying. But you're saying all of them. So I would like to see Atheist Angel go ahead and prove that. It might not be convincing to some people, like I said. They're also kind of imposing a lot onto people that we don't necessarily... I don't think it's fair to impose upon. So it's saying that essentially humans were guessing at the universe, and then this person is saying they were just misinterpreting the natural state of existence. And it's like, whoa, not even just like, oh, you've misunderstood what, you just don't understand what a lightning bolt is, and so you've attributed it to an angry god for whatever reason. No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying they were a misinterpretation, the gods were a misinterpretation of the natural state of existence. Can you please define for me what is the natural state of existence? Because I feel like maybe you're gonna have a... Where's your paper? I would love to see your philosophical paper on this. I mean, you got a source for this shit? My brain. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this kind of loses its mind a little bit. Let's take a look. I'm gonna open it separately because I don't want to lose my spot. I notice how you guys can't see this, but if I do this real quick, I'm gonna show you. And you can see that number right here. I've almost got 100 notifications since I went live. Uh-oh. Some people might be mad. Religion is built on gaslighting, in my opinion. The poor logic shows through if you know what to look for. Please show me example of these theists and their logic, please. So, Philip says, say I give you the Kalam, how would you critique it from a logical perspective? This is the thing, if you don't understand I think it's classical logic if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. The Kalam is logically sound. Like, it follows, right? It doesn't mean you have to, doesn't make it true. You could have something that is a completely logical statement, but if the first premise is incorrect, it doesn't matter. The logic, it doesn't matter on top of that fact of the matter. So, I'm gonna jump right into this because it's like, it was deleted. This person, if I'm not, atheist bad. And so, if I'm not mistaken, atheist bad. Oh wait, that's Sheris. Oh, Sheris. I see what happened here. Sheris went on a different line. Sheris. Yeah, see. God damn it, Sheris. You're getting in my way. Yeah, so it looks like she misunderstood something, so she removed her stuff except for her apology. But I don't see, where is this guy? Where's the badass kicking new atheist? Where's his response? Where's his reply? He didn't answer. Where's the badass? I'm upset. Badass, where'd you go? Come back. Religion is built on gaslighting. Prove it. Where's your evidence? Yeah, I imagine you run into trouble saying that all religion is built on gaslighting, because that's... Sorry, yeah, you're correct. I meant valid, not sound. Sorry, yes. Thank you for correcting me. It is valid, not sound. Thank you. That's exactly what I meant. I got that backwards. You would need to... That claim takes some work. Have you heard about that God and you're supposed to follow what religions tell you this God wants despite reality? That by definition is gaslighting. That's not what the definition of gaslighting is. The definition of we've had this conversation. You know what, chat? Can somebody in the chat please put it right there, right above my head? Can you please tell me what gaslighting is? Because no, you're wrong. So I'm gonna let chat answer that one, because we've talked about this enough that I think that they can do it. They can do it for me. I think the best way to rid the world of religion is to make life embarrassing and difficult for religious people and their ways. Call them out publicly. Ask in public if God is speaking to them. Ask them what God is wearing. What language did he speak? Is his voice deep or high? So harass people on the street? It sounds like... Bro, I don't think you want to live in that world that you're describing. I don't think that's actually something you want. And I think that if you... I'd be curious to know what this person's, like, ethical standards are, because do they think freedom from religion should be a thing? Like, I understand the idea of, like, this is a problem, right? This is the problem with lumping together whether or not a God exists and what religion as an organization is doing, whichever one you're referring to. Because you can have an organization that is fine, and then you can have an organization that has problems with children, right? So you can separate these two things. So just because you believe in God does not mean you support some of the horrific acts of the Catholic Church, right? So you don't treat everybody as if they've personally wronged you. It's bizarre. Let's read some of the definitions of gaslighting we got here. We got Dapper Dino. Gaslighting is an attempt to make someone think they are crazy by lying about past events in an effort to make them question their own memory. Hey! A founder could be sold on the idea of religion is the religion he's teaching, which makes it not gaslighting. Gaslighting requires purposely misleading or lying. For Mr. Serious, Smitty said gaslighting is when you try to make someone think they're crazy so you can control them. For example, if you say the devil is making them question your lies. Chemo, Gaslight is the movie where Angela Lansbury is still kind of hot. Hey! Helios. Gaslighting is a form of mental abuse where you try to make someone question the sanity of past experiences or reality. So, out of curiosity, but let's go off of Helios's definition real quick. Do you think atheists sometimes employ gaslighting when they say that religion is a mental illness? Or when they say that that experience didn't really happen the way you think it did? An experience, by the way, that they have very little knowledge of, that they weren't there for. Do you think that would fall under that kind of a that kind of a definition for gaslighting? You guys let me know. Gaslighting is a tactic which a person or entity, in order to gain more power, makes a victim question their reality. Since virtually nothing in the Bible can be proved, and most of it is indistinguishable from fairy tale, then it, by very nature, is gaslighting. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there is more than one religion out there, guys. Maybe check yourself before you wreck yourself. And that's also not this is more talking about religion. A lot of people argue that religion was used to control people and to set guidelines and standards, and it evolved from there. It's not gaslighting. They said earlier, I don't want to say, not this person in particular, but people were saying earlier that religion was put in place as an earnest misinterpretation of life, or it was a best guess. A best guess is not gaslighting. If you honestly think you have the answer to the world and everything in it, and you think that answer is 42, and you go around telling people the meaning of life is 42, and you earnestly think that, you're not gaslighting anybody. That's absurd. The Catholic Church believes in I don't even know what this word is. Transubstantiation. Substantiation? That's not what that says. I'm looking this word up because I want to know what it is. What is this?
Transubstantiation.
Oh, transubstantiation. The conversion of the substance of the Eucharistic elements into the body and the blood of Christ at consecration. Only the appearance of bread and wine still remain. Okay. The Catholic Church believes I'm not even gonna show. I already closed it. Whatever. Wine and wafer turning into literal flesh and blood. It does not. This would be gaslighting, telling the congregation something is happening that is not. This is one example from one religion. They all have them. No, not all religions believe that. Also, I'm pretty sure most people in the Catholic Church congregation don't have that literal belief. It's far more of a metaphorical belief. So what do you say when they're like, I take it metaphorically? What do you do when... I would want to take a poll. I want to take a poll of people who are Catholic and ask them, do you think this is literal or do you think this is figurative? And then based on that poll, make a judgment on whether or not it's a larger population or a smaller population that actually believes this, and whether or not they're being gaslit into believing it, or if they're being told this is a fact and they're believing it, which still isn't gaslighting because it's not changing any kind of events. It's not questioning of any kind of sanity. That's still not gaslighting. Let's see what else this person had to say. Again, I'm just going to the next... Yeah, you could think it's silly. I agree. You could think it's silly. It's not gaslighting. The Catholic Church. Is this really your take? Is this really your take? Saying something false is not lying or gaslighting. Direct lying is not necessarily gaslighting. Lying about fundamental basis of reality to propagate an idea or any idea would be gaslighting. Untruth about a physical testability reality. No, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. So when someone says something that is false, it's gaslighting. And then they just posted their own thing and didn't answer the question. Weird how he ignored this tweet. Almost makes him look like a gaslighting douche. Bruh! You didn't answer the initial tweeter. You didn't answer OP, dumbass. I don't know if this guy is honest or not, but bro, we still haven't found you in here responding and answering the direct shit. Ex-Catholic, and it was a metaphor. There you go. What? You are not worthy isn't good enough for you? What? Oh, yeah, no, that's not gaslighting. That's still not gaslighting. Saying somebody is not worthy based on these criteria, and that matches the criteria, isn't gaslighting. Saying they did something that was against the criteria when it wasn't and they didn't, that starts going into gas. These people, this is why. This right here, you see this? They're making Philip's point for him. This argumentation is fallacious, and it's people who don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. These are atheists coming in and doing this and saying this. There are more, like, it just falls apart. It absolutely just falls apart. Nice deflection. Can you answer the question? What question? He made a statement. This guy's like, can you demonstrate that? And it's just like, well, can you answer his question? What question? Lost count of the number of times. That's gaslighting. He didn't ask a question. Lost count of the number of times I've seen you can't understand God unless you have faith. That evidence enough for you? Circular logic lives happily in religion with mis-circular logic and all their little fallacies. Religion, and discussing whether or not religion is behaving appropriate or a religion believes a certain thing that is reasonable, is different than whether or not a God exists. I need to hammer this home. Maybe I need to put on a Goblin sign. These are not the same thing, and when you tie them together, you screw yourself over. Oh my God. You can't understand God unless you have faith. Okay, so that's putting a requirement on. It's still not gaslighting. It's not gaslighting at all. Circular logic lives happily in religion. In some religions, maybe. That's based on the individual, for the most part. It's based on individual reasoning and justifications. Opinions don't require proof. This bitch... Wait, this is the person who was above saying that Philip's opinion, based on his experience, was the gif of everything you have said was made no sense. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Oh no. Oh no! Oh no! Oh. Opinions don't require proof. Is that your opinion or is that a fact? They are ideas that can change with new information. However, telling everyone they are bad because a person no one can prove existed ate a fruit a talking snake gave her is pretty stupid, in my opinion. God damn it. This is fucking Twitter, man. It's just... Fuck. Golden statue of Trump, the golden idol, that's who you all worship now. I mean, that's kind of extreme. That's a lot of caps. I don't think every Christian is worshiping Trump. I think there's a fringe group of extremists that have a tendency towards religion, but I don't think that... I mean, they might form their own religion eventually, and good for them. The irony of a group creating a religion based on Trump and getting to be tax exempt is pretty hilarious to me. I actually kind of like that idea. I think that there's just the nice little bow on top of this nonsense, but you know. And Dapper makes a good point, because the literal take of Genesis is the majority take in Christianity. Yeah, you've got a lot of people who think that they seem to think that they know what they're talking about. Prove your God must be true first, or as you theists like to do, prove it isn't. So, okay, so he actually responded by not answering the question and not addressing his claim. Proving whether or not the God exists is irrelevant to whether or not proving that religion is all gaslighting. These are separate things. So, no, you really don't want to start a prove it isn't discussion. I was being sarcastic. I mean, I buy that he was being sarcastic, but he's not... Okay. You know what, tell you what. I'm willing to grant the benefit of the doubt, because I don't want to sit here and have a discussion on what sarcasm is, because that is... I'm gonna put it, we'll take out... got a little pin in that. I need to get a cork board and start putting, and like get it maybe somewhere so I can start, every time some additional nonsense comes up, I can write down a timestamp what it was so I can like pin it off to the side. So we can have a cork, like an omnibus cork board of like, and then eventually doing a stream covering all of like the nonsense. Well, when a religion centers around breaking down your sense of reality and replacing it with a new one, that's pretty much the definition of gaslighting. That probably doesn't apply to all religions, though. Doesn't every worldview or position do that? My sense of reality is Christian and yours is atheist, so you would try to break down my sense of reality and replace it with atheism, right? Well, that's kind of a fair point. I don't know if I buy it, but it's... I mean... Does reality conform to what we want it to be? It really kind of depends on what kind of... Like what specific doctrine this Christian follows. So, are they having a literal reading of Genesis? Do they have a literal interpretation of things like... bread and wine? Do they have a literal... Or do they just believe in a God? Do they take the Bible literally or not? Because if they don't take the Bible literally and they're not denying science, then there is no sense of reality that's been broken down or replaced. It's the same sense of reality. It's just one thinks there is a God and one thinks there isn't a God, and it might affect their personal behavior, but doesn't affect reality, and it may not affect their maybe to a degree with prayer, with how effective you think prayer may be. And you could get into that discussion about is prayer logically consistent within the Bible, but that's a different discussion and not the same as like the overarching view of whether or not science is legitimate or not. There are plenty of Christian scientists, and when atheists pretend that those people don't exist or they don't matter or like discredit them because they think there's a God, you're kind of being a shithead and probably don't do stuff like that. Does reality conform to what I want to be? The definition of it, I mean, some of it does. You can influence your reality. You can influence your lived experience. You can influence your day-to-day life. You can wake up having a bad day and go to bed having a great day. And so you can affect your personal reality. Now, can you turn water into wine with nothing but the glass, or assuming you're not doing a magic trick? No, not yet. Science doesn't do that yet, but it does. Is that what anybody is claiming they can do? I mean, some people think Jesus did it, but that's a different conversation. The definition of it doesn't look good for your heavily ticketed punching. Oh, heavenly ticketed ticket punching. Yeah. Like the number of people coming in. I got it. Careful, Christian scientist is a term for members of the Church of Jesus Christ scientists, and they're crazy who reject all medical intervention. Yeah, that's nuts. Don't do stuff like that. I'm talking about people who have degrees in, like, biology, who study and are active in the scientific community and making contributions, who happen to be theists. I'll clarify that. I don't want that on my plate. That becomes a whole... Oh, no. I had enough. God. Christians participate in cunnilingus lifestyle. If you ask for proof, I can give it to you. I mean, some of them might. I'm not gonna judge. I don't know. Who is... This person is just getting, like, left, right, and center. I honestly can't see how your point is not, if you change someone's mind on such a big topic, is gaslighting. Changing someone's mind is not gaslighting, correct. Old saying, it isn't a lie if you believe it. Also that. For some things. Not for everything, but for some things. Of the 40 gods named in the Bible, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and say, if anybody wants to, like, discuss this, go talk to somebody who studied history and is a theologian, because I'm willing to bet this is not accurate, and I recommend going and talking to, Tim? Is it Tim? Pretty sure I had Tim on. Let me just grab it. I'm gonna actually just drop the link in the chat for you guys so you can check it out if you so desire, because I'm not gonna force you guys into anything. Here it is, Tim O'Neill, that's who it was. I had brain farts. There you go. I had a discussion with Tim O'Neill about some of the things that, like, how frustrating historical memes are, because they're usually not very accurate. So if you're curious, you can go watch that. But if you're also, yes, Digital Hammurabi would be a good, if you go check out Dr. Josh, go talk to them about stuff like this. Like, send them this and be like, hey, how accurate is this? And I'm sure you will get a response. Actually, I'm not going to say, I can't guarantee that they're actually going to answer you, but yo. So, Danish debater for 50 says, I think this is the first time I see you solo talk like this, but nice job, keep it up. Thank you. Yeah, I do these. Nobody forced on me this change of mind. Cults, however, actively try to break your mind. Not all religions are cults, though. Yes, I would agree with that. There are definitely... I'm sure there are some churches that attempt gaslighting, and I'm sure there are some religions that are maybe a little bit more akin to allowing for that, but it is certainly not all religion, which again also is separate from the question about whether there is a God or not, and whether you believe in a God or not, and why. So this is... And then let's see, you got this argument ad meme that you see from atheists, so now you're making the point. Stop making Philip's point for him. Oh my god. Do I really want to see what the other what's the other? Yeah, he's trying to... Yeah, good luck. Godspeed. Godspeed in that conversation. Oh, no, every worldview or position doesn't do this. Certainly people have worldviews or positions with zero facts to support them, like believing in fairies, but comparing fact-based beliefs with people believing in gods or fairies is ridiculous. So, you can absolutely believe in fairies in a capacity. Do fairies exist? Yes. In literature. Do fairies exist? Yeah, I know a guy who is a fairy. He plays one in Dungeons and Dragons. Completely fact-based. And I could say I believe in fairies if I wanted to. So, I was a fairy once. No, I don't mean this to be fallacious. I only mean this to make a point. It's not as simple as people seem to think it is. Atheism is not a sense of reality. It is not a worldview or a system of belief. It's a position on the theistic proposition that a God exists, nothing more. Why do theists constantly need to strawman atheism? Is it because your position is so weak that you can't defend it honestly? This is so incredibly incorrect. And it is exactly the thing that Philip is talking about with atheists who don't know logic. No! A puck needs a boop. Boop. He's been booped. He's right there. No. We've reached the lack theists. TM. Okay. Atheism is not a sense of reality. Then neither is theism. If you're gonna say that theism is a sense of reality because you believe that God intervenes in reality, then you would, by the same argument, say that the atheism is a sense of reality due to believing there is no God imposing on reality. Done. Both sides. You're welcome. It's not a worldview or a system of belief. You believe there are no gods. Yes, it is. Which means you have a burden of justification. Why do you hide from your burden of justification? I don't know. Is it because your position is so weak that you can't defend it honestly? Badoo. But hey, what do I know? Isn't a lack of belief in God a perception you guys have after seeing the lack of evidence? I'm sorry, I don't quite see how this is a straw man. Yeah, I don't think this is a straw man. I don't think saying that, hey, you don't believe something, can you demonstrate to me or explain to me why you don't believe something, is not a straw man. That's not a straw man. Straight up. Not exactly. Atheists are persuadable. Yet theists have been trying to make a persuasive case for thousands of years, and still you and they keep failing. Why is that? What do you mean? There are political groups and basically what amounts to an outreach program in the ACA that are atheist and secular based to convince people not to be. We had David Smalley on, and he straight up said that his goal is to make theists question and change their minds. You're bullshitting yourself right now if you think that atheists are not trying to persuade theists. You're absolutely bullshitting yourself. That is absolute shitty sales pitch. In your opinion. Sure, that's your opinion. Yeah, okay. My God, this god-awful atheist is correct. You have a very apt name, sir and or madam. Dear or other. Dear God. This is when I would be opening my alcohol. If I had any, I drank it all already, and now I'm sad on the inside. I can't. What absolute nonsense is this? Oh my God. It also implies that theists aren't persuadable. That might not be what they're trying to say. I don't want to put words in their mouth, because they might not be trying to say this, but they kind of implied it. So I'm willing to grant leeway there. But by saying atheists are persuadable in response to no to above makes it kind of implies that theists aren't persuadable. But if theists weren't persuadable, then atheism couldn't be on the rise. And any conversation about it would be meaningless. You would either just be born an atheist or you'd be born a theist, but into those families, and you could only ever be convinced of theism, and you could never be convinced of atheism, and that makes no goddamn sense. I don't think that's what this person is trying to say. And maybe it is. If I know. Depends on the target audience. If you're trying to recruit authoritarian followers into a sadomasochist human sacrifice cult, a flock of sheep to be shorn, slaughtered, and devoured by the good shepherds leading the cult, both Christianity and Islam are successful. Whoa! That's some savage rhetoric right there. I am not going to parse words and say that Christianity and Islam have been responsible for many unnecessary deaths. I don't know. This is a discussion you could have, but again, this is a discussion about the religion, not about whether or not God exists. So this is a misnomer to what they were talking about, nor does it say anything about, again, we're back to the initial tweet of saying something like this, and then saying something like this, and clearly not understanding the logic. So, there you go. I mean, I would agree with this. They have a point, it's just not the point that anybody is talking about, so it's kind of a red herring, in my opinion. Which is fallacy. Oops. Oh. Nope, we're all for freedom and liberation, not... What do you mean? No, hold on. You can't say up here that atheism is not a worldview or a system of belief and has no sense of reality, and then have down here people saying that, no, we have positions on freedom and liberation. You can't have that both ways. That's not how that works. Please follow your own conscience. But at least be honest with yourself while you're doing it. Projecting your own authoritarian, coercive impulses onto us does nobody any favors. That's not what anybody in this thread is doing. Nobody's trying to change your mind right now. That's bordering on, like, you. This is the mindset that I was talking about when it came to not every conversation is a debate. Sometimes it's just a conversation. You don't have to convince everybody around you every single time. You don't have to whip your dick out and wave it around and be, look how smart I am, because that's not what people are talking about. You going through into whatever thread you're in that has nothing to do with making it about shitting on people because you've completely missed what the topic is about is absurd, and you just look stupid. Just stupid. Stop being stupid. Yes, your reality is based on your religious indoctrination, which treats... you can have a conversation about indoctrination. Some religions and some parts of some religions, like some churches will do it more than others, and in some cases you could consider indoctrination, some people you can't. People just use these words and they don't actually understand, like, the connotation or the like what these words actually mean, and that there's, like, a standard that you... Like, taking your kids to Sunday school on its own is not indoctrination. Not alone. So there's more to it than that. Growing up in a theist household does not mean you've been indoctrinated. And as much as, like, a lot of atheists will like to throw around that theists have this victim complex and that they're so persecuted. Meanwhile, they're like, oh, religions are trying to... I grew up in a theist household and they indoctrinated me and they tried to indoctrinate me. Your victim complex is showing. Your victim complex is showing. And yes, in some cases it's awful and it shouldn't be done. And there are more extreme situations than others, and then in some cases there is indoctrination going on. But you don't know that about this person, and you shouldn't assume that about this person. It's kind of bullshit. Which treats myths and fairy tales as facts and reality. Prove that it is a fairy tale. Prove that it is a myth. Because that is a claim. Now, I'm not saying I would or would not buy whatever reasoning you present or whatever proof you present, but you've made a claim now, so please demonstrate your claim. This is why 60% of Americans believe a 500-year-old man built a floating zoo to survive a non-existent global flood, and humans came from a dirt man and rib woman. Okay, so first off, I'm going to want to see the stats on that. Cool, thanks. I mean, I'm not... Those numbers sound too even to not have been pulled out of your ass. They might be right, but I would want more to go on if it was a debate, which they seem to be treating it like it is, so. You've claimed the global flood didn't happen, so you don't believe it did, which means you have a burden of justification. Can you justify that? I think that one's a pretty easy one. I think that's a low ball. Like, the global flood, but not every Christian believes in a global flood. That's the thing. You are lumping people together in shit you don't know if they do or do not believe. Not every Christian believes that the global flood was in fact a global flood. They believe there was a flood. They believe a flood did happen. Some Christians believe it was localized. Some Christians think that it's just a story, it's a fable, and it's meant to be a fable. But this person is basically just trying to claim that Christians are indoctrinated to believe, to take the Bible literally. Not every Christian takes the Bible literally. Am I the bearer of bad news here? This is why people think that atheists are illogical. This is illogical behavior. To make these kinds of assumptions and then force them onto other people is part of the problem. You're bitching about theists pushing their shit onto people while you're pushing your shit onto people. And again, there's one thing to say like, hey, listen, I'm going to give them a taste of their own medicine. That's not what they're doing here. This person is asking and trying to have a legitimate conversation and asking somebody to back up their claim. If you're a logical person and you're an activist, like these people seem to be, then why would you not expect someone on your own side to be able to back up their claim? They ought to be, and you're obfuscating and defending this person in your tribe is not helpful to you. It makes you look like a bunch of assholes who jumped on a guy asking somebody to demonstrate their... The dude didn't even say... Well, he did. He said it was... Did he? Hold on. I'm gonna double check. Did this guy actually... Where's it? Built on gaslighting. Prove it. Where's your evidence? This guy didn't even say whether or not he agreed. He just asked him to show his evidence. This guy didn't say that he doesn't agree. Maybe this guy thinks that religion is built on gaslighting. Not likely, but it is possible. You don't know. People LARP on the internet. Who knows what this person actually believes? But they didn't say they didn't. You're assuming a whole lot of shit about this person. You might be correct, but you know what happens when you assume. Just saying. My god, we've been going for an hour already. Oh. Evidence, please. If it's not too much to ask, just one example. Just one. This thread. You're what? Here. Be blessed. Let me, hold on. I got you, boo. Hold up. Just one example, evidence, please. There you go. Let me just send that bitch a smiley face. Bitches love smiley faces. There you go. Oh my goodness, you are so welcome. Oh, I had all these other ones saved up because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take to go through this. I like to impose logic on theists. I'll stick with this one and then we'll look at this thread and then we'll back out of this because, oh god. I like to impose logic on theists. No, you don't. Based on the Twitter thread I just read, no, you don't. Not even a little bit. You like to argue at a meme and say that, like, look at how smart I am. You don't argue at all. You just... Alright. What's the phrasing here? The phrasing is... Not regurgitation. Rejection is not refutation. Rejection is not refutation. You saying nuh-uh does not refute whatever that person says. All that tells me is you don't accept it. It doesn't tell me why you don't accept it. It doesn't tell me if your reasoning or your logic for rejecting it is sound or valid. It doesn't tell me anything. It's just nuh-uh. Well, okay. Rejection is not refutation. So if you were to say that my reason for being an atheist is because I haven't been convinced by the evidence. Okay, so you're rejecting, but you're not refuting. You haven't refuted anything. You're just not there's no refutation there. So you need to refute the point to think that you've won some kind of online argument. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. Helios for 5 isn't the problem with trying to debate against religion is that the beliefs of theism are so varied that nothing is universally believed or denied. In some cases, yes. It kind of depends on if you're trying to have a debate with a particular person, or if you're trying to have a discussion about what religion believes what and what is and is not acceptable, and whether or not something may or may not be morally reprehensible, and for what reason. If you want to, I do not advise, if you're trying to communicate with somebody or trying to persuade or convince somebody, do not have a debate mindset going forward. Have a discussion, and then you can have that one-on-one if you want to convince, like say they believe in something harmful. So, I don't know, MLMs. They believe in multi-level marketing, and they think it's going to work, and you want to convince them otherwise. Saying nuh-uh to everything they say is not going to convince them not to go through with it. What might convince them is having statistics, having actual argumentation, having actual refutation as to why you believe that MLMs are harmful and dangerous. And then have that discussion with them. And then you can cater your information and your conversation to whichever MLM they're referring to in particular, right? Because a lot of the times you'll see, oh, well, MLMs are bad, and somebody will say, well, not this isn't an MLM, and it's like, yeah, it totally is. But you have to be able to show them why and how this thing is an MLM. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be very convincing, are you? Try this. No. This is wrong. That's excellent. No, it's not. Your bar for excellent is very low. If excellent means it might be kind of funny but not actually refutation, then sure. I'm not prescriptivist. What really chaps my ass is that their go-to response is, I'm offended, not realizing what they did non-believers. I'm going to help you. Not realizing what they did to non-believers for years, such as burning us at the stake and other gruesome deaths. What? No, nope, I'm not doing it. No, we're moving on. Logic is not enough. They need rationality, which is facts plus logic. Rationality is based on logical systems. It isn't separate to logic. Hey! Leo! Thank you, Leo. I'm so glad you addressed this and not me, because I was about to smash my head on the desk. Hi! Thank you for saving me. Helio said, also for fun, mental cooldown, boot puck with your gobbo. Oh, with the gobbo? Oh. Boop. Boop. Yes, he's a good boy. Yeah, super chats, for anybody who hasn't been around here recently, or much, or is new, like and subscribe and share and tell your friends. Also, super chats mean Puck gets a boop. That's my doggo. Logic is not necessarily true. You can prove anything with logic. For it to be true, the premise additionally have to be true. Rationality includes establishing reliable premises. Logic is not a system which has truth value in it, nor did I say that it did. Logic is a system utilized for establishing truth value in propositions through inductive or deductive processes of reasoning. Dear God, how much of this thread makes the point that was retweeted by Philip? Logic has its own definition of truth. Something is true if you can derive it from the premises. This is different from the real-world definition of truth. The real-world definition of truth, which is something that manifests in reality. Logic doesn't have a definition of truth value. Logic is a system for established truth value. This is not an esoteric. This is not esoteric amongst logisticians. This is also why logical axioms are unjustifiable, because justification is a property emergent from logic that can't be applied back to it. It goes one way, not both ways. It's sort of the same thing with intent. Logical axioms are only unjustifiable from within the logical system built upon them. The whole point of rationality and empiricism is to collect justification from them outside of the logical system by collecting probabilistic information from the real world. Both rationality and empiricism presuppose logic. Yes! You keep trying to completely detach them from logic, which will not work. Correct. God, I am so happy Leo showed up in this thread, and Charlie Dave has joined us. Hi. I'm talking about having Philip on. I'm talking in the background with him to potentially get him to come on. I mean, he might have seen what I've had to say, and he might not want to show up now. But I was talking to him in the background because I told him I was going to do this ahead of time, and I would actually love to have him come on with Answers and Reasons and Dave again, because that would be amazing. But yeah, this person is not using. They're saying logic, but they don't mean logic. They mean something else. I would have to have a conversation with them to understand exactly what it is that they're talking about, but they're not talking about like philosophical logic. They're not talking about philosophical argumentation. They're talking about, I like to say nuh-uh and be smart. I like to throw gotchas at them and pretend that they stuck even when they didn't. That's what it sounds like to me. Based on the other... Oh, this guy's back. I don't know. Come on, let's see that logic of yours then. That's fair. That's only fair. I send love. It should probably not be surprising that this approach produces more arguments and disagreements than conversations. Bitch! I saw you on the other thread. Don't pretend like you're interested in conversation, my dude. Or my lady. I don't know. Come on. Come on. This person spends a lot of time bullshitting themselves. I ain't gonna lie. They spend a lot of time. They use a lot of words to say that, hey, I buy my own bullshit. If agreement is what you if agreement is what you and they are seeking, Christians are perhaps onto something in realizing that many, perhaps most, humans respond far more readily to emotional appeals and subjective experiences occurring in the mind. Well, okay. Then, doesn't every experience occur in the mind? Just saying. Maybe not. I don't know. Than they do to logic, science, and reason. Then again, I don't fault you for having a little fun with them while they flail around. Yeah, don't behave like this and pretend you're interested in a conversation, because you're clearly not. You're clearly not. And you're not fooling anyone. I do agree that when you're trying to convince people of something, emotional is a good way to persuade people, especially on the whole. Whether or not you think that's acceptable or not, in some cases it is. You cannot separate humans from emotional drives. You can't do it. We are emotional creatures. We rely on emotions for a lot of things, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you try and remove that emotion from yourself in its entirety. Now, that does not mean you can't take a step back from your emotions, accept that they're there, identify them, recognize them, and then take a step back and look at things as objectively as you possibly can. Emotions are not bad. They're not a thing that you should ever have. They're not. It's okay to think that it's let's go with the abortion argument. Christians will say, or a theist might say, I'm not going to say all of them, a theist might argue that abortion is not something that should be acceptable because you're killing a baby. That could seem like a very emotional argument. And an atheist may argue that abortion should be allowed because you're killing a mother. Both of those are emotional arguments. In this argument, you're dealing with, like, this could ruin somebody's life. The child is going to have a bad life. They don't have the resources to... This child is going to grow up in a home where they're not wanted, etc., etc. These are all emotional arguments. That doesn't mean they're not true. It doesn't mean they're fallacious. It means that there is an emotional level and a drive to that argumentation. Should you make a decision based on that? Maybe. Maybe not that alone, but that's part of it. Like it or not. It's just a fact. Spitting hot facts. Anyway, that's... this person is... This person and this person make Philip's initial argument for them in their own thread as well as within this retweeted thread. I'm going to put the thread here for you guys if you want to go and read it and kind of explore it a little bit more yourselves. You can kind of see where it goes. I'll also put it in the description down below, so if you guys want to check that out. I do recommend checking out sort of the library videos we have. This is my channel. We as in me and Puck and my Goblin over here. Puck ran away though. And my Goblin tipped over. Oh, what a sad day. Go check out that. Go check out our talk with Answers and Reasons and Charlie Dave about Aaron Ra's argument about rock atheists. We've talked about lack theism a couple of times also throughout some of that, so you can go and find stuff like that. Look out, subscribe, because I'm going to be able to have Philip on, and hopefully I'll be able to bring Dave as well as Answers and Reason on with me, because I think that will expand the conversation a lot further than I would be able to take it myself. Helios5 says, money for Chesh's fedora fund. Come on, people, let's get her a nice one. I would totally wear a fedora. Like, probably a legitimate fedora, not one of those pretend fedoras that aren't actually fedoras. Or both. Bowler hats? I could do a bowler hat. Maybe a top hat. Like and subscribe and share and all that good stuff. There's going to be more coming. I also recommend checking out Steve McRae's channel and looking at Cacking Corner if you want to see a little bit more of me. And also, if you're interested in sort of a little bit more about communication and how to set boundaries for yourself, which may help you in these kinds of conversations, go check out Claire's channel, because we just had a conversation about that yesterday. Go check out also Scott Clifton if you're interested in the Kalam argument, particularly the William Lane Craig variety, because that is fantastic at Theoretical Bullshit. And if you want more about history and theology, like the history of theology and the Bible, go check out Tim O'Neill as well as Digital Hammurabi / Dr. Josh Bowen. I recommend going to Dr. Josh Bowen directly, but that's just like that Twitter, because they have more than one. I think they have like 2 or 3 Twitters. I recommend either going to their channel or checking out Dr. Josh on Twitter, just for the sake of convenience. But that's it for me. I'm gonna get out of here. Like and subscribe and all that good shiz. You can become a member if you'd like to discuss more. I look forward to seeing your comments, as well as you can become a Patreon if you want to help support and get access to the Discord and all that fun stuff. We do D&D stuff, we do memes, we share educational garbage. Really cool one about a ferret recently I thought was kind of cool. It's a cloned black-footed ferret which is adorable. And yeah, I guess there's going to be some merch coming soon, which I gave you a little hint at earlier. So I will see you guys next time. Have fun. I'm out of here. Tomorrow is going to be hilarious. So if you're looking for some drama nonsense, that'll be tomorrow. Bye now.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.